We have to look at the two crises that we're confronting. One is a health crisis. The health crisis precipitated an economic crisis. So we know that until we actually address the health crisis in a meaningful way, our economy will never be as strong as it was.
Governor Whitmer, it's good to see you today. How's everything going?
Thank you. Well, I'm hanging in there. We have, there are small signs to give us hope and to know that the stay home order is working. Vast majority of people are doing their part. And so I'm grateful for that. And I'm hopeful that we can continue on this same trajectory and think about, what safe practices look like in the next step.
All right, so we see the number of positive tests are starting to fall and come down. Everyone is looking towards this May 1st date. Are there any plans to ease restrictions before May 1st?
Well, we are looking at the data every single day, and we're going to continue to do that for the weeks and months ahead, because what we know is that COVID-19 will continue to be present in some form. The goal is to keep it at a manageable number, to keep the fewest people from getting it as possible, to re-engage in a thoughtful manner certain sectors of our economy. And so I can't, 10 days ago, I couldn't have predicted that we would see this leveling off. 10 days from now, I can't predict precisely what we will see in the interim, but I do know if everyone continues to do their part, we can thoughtfully think about how we might re-engage certain sectors of our economy. But it will be coming in waves, and we're going to be assessing every step of the way.
All right, so let's talk maybe about some of those details, because I think there is a simmering frustration. People see that Georgia is going to be opening up on Friday. They see news coming out of South Carolina. Republicans in the state have put forth two plans with some details and specifics about how they'd like to see things open up in waves. What are some of the details that you can share with us that you're working on right now with your task force? And is there anything in the Republicans' plans that they've put forward that you find valid?
Yeah, sure. I think that there are some good thoughts there. I think that there are good thoughts from what the guidance was that came from the White House. This group that has come together, the Economic Recovery Group, is really doing a rigorous amount of work looking at the data, understanding all of the different economies and the different aspects of sectors of our economy, rating them for risk, asking the tough questions, and having University of Michigan Medical kind of weigh in and give us counsel as to what's riskier than other things, what we can do to mitigate that risk, what protocols we need to adopt. Asking questions, lots of questions, but a couple of examples. Is the work done primarily inside or outdoors? Is the work one that engages directly with the public, or is it like office work or work that is behind the scenes? Is it work that there is shared tools or machinery where people are touching the same thing? Each of these is a factor that goes into the determination of how much risk there is in terms of passing on COVID-19. And so as we are assessing this, I think we'll be able to really show people how much thought has gone into this. We'll take some lessons from different groups that are weighing in as well, and I'll make a decision based on all of these factors, how we think we can safely start to re-engage certain sectors of our economy.
I know that you're working with the other states in the Great Lakes area. How are your staffs engaging with their state governments, and what are some of the things that you can agree on? Because I would assume, though, that everyone brings a different stakeholders and different thoughts to the table on that.
Yeah, it was really good to form this group. We have somewhat similar economies, somewhat similar considerations, similar stakeholders, and so sharing the intelligence that we have, sharing the reactions and the numbers that we have, so that we are learning from one another and we are able to make the best informed decisions, I think is really important. It does not mean that Ohio takes one action tomorrow that Illinois, Kentucky, Wisconsin, Minnesota, we're all going to do the same thing. But it does mean that we are communicating upfront so we understand one another's thought process, and that where there's an ability to replicate good, things that are working, we want to be nimble enough to do that.
All of this, though, is very tough to talk about reopening if the amount of testing isn't able to ramp up to other levels that other states have. That we've seen many reports that Michigan is still lagging behind on the number of tests, and that you've talked about the supplies for testing and being able to get those things done. What are your conversations about? You said the supply chain is tough. So what are your conversations about trying to get more testing supplies to the right places so in 10 days we can have a significantly ramped up testing system?
Yeah, so our capabilities, I mean, to the credit of the team here on the ground and private labs that have come online, we have capabilities of doing twice as many tests as we are today, maybe up to 3 times as many. What our struggle is right now is getting the swabs and the reagents. That is something that I know every governor in the country is echoing as we have our conversations with the federal government and the White House. We were on a call yesterday with Mike Pence, and that was a consistent theme across the country. These implements are absolutely essential to getting this testing capability to maximum capacity. And yet, this is where we need the most help from the federal government. I know that the president mentioned that they were going to use the Defense Production Act to start making swabs. It was a comment in a press conference. I haven't seen any evidence that that's actually happening, but I'm hopeful that it's going to, because I know that that's one way that we could get the kinds of swabs we need to double, triple our testing and really have the kind of data and information we need to feel confident in our next steps.
Let's talk a little bit about the budget. Obviously, things are going to get tougher here in the state of Michigan. Are there any conversations you're having right now about furloughing state workers, or have you started to take a look at what you might start to carve out of the budget?
Yeah, well, as you probably saw, I said I'm going to take a pay cut. I know that we are going to have to make a lot of tough decisions here in state government. Of course, the shutdown of an economy means that we are feeling it, and we're going to have to face some potentially deep cuts. I'm hopeful that the federal government gives us flexibility with those CARES Act dollars. We've gotten about $3 billion will be coming to the state of Michigan. That will help go a long way. We know that our kids are going to need additional support as they contemplate going back to school in the fall. And so there are a lot of different factors, but we are analyzing the budget and looking to see where we need to pull back. We have a hiring freeze. We've already done a number of things to cut spending, but ultimately, as we think about next year's budget, we're going to be making some tough decisions in the short term.
Okay, last question for you. I know my time is running out. You wrote in the New York Times today, you said, "I never imagined having to use the levers of my office this way to protect the people that I serve. And each action taken weighs heavily on me. Each action has been informed by the best science and epidemiology counsel that there is." Do you feel that we have kind of started to fall on argument lines of either you want to save lives or you think the economy is more important, that there's a more nuanced stance here that people are having an issue with?
Well, I do think that we have to look at the two crises that we're confronting. One is a health crisis. The health crisis precipitated an economic crisis. So we know that until we actually address the health crisis in a meaningful way that gives people confidence they're going to be safe to go back into work or safe to go back into the world, that our economy will never be as strong as it was until we've addressed that health crisis. And so we have to do both. It's not one or the other, it's doing both. And we've asked people to make a temporary sacrifice for the greater good of making sure that we are stronger in the long run, can get our economy going in a shorter period of time so that we don't have a second wave of COVID-19 and have to return to a stay-at-home order. So I think that, as with everything, it is making sure that we've got the best science informing the decisions that we make. We have the best protocols to mitigate risk, and that we are very strategic in how we start to re-engage so that we avoid that second wave.
Okay, and as of right now, there is going to be no change to the order before May 1st?
As of the moment of this taping, no.
Okay. All right, Governor Whitmer, it's always good to see you. Thanks for checking in with us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Christy. Take care.
You can find more at onedetroitpbs.org or subscribe to our social media channels and sign up for our One Detroit newsletter.